Hi, my name is Chris Thompson. I'm going to be presenting on Module 11, Interactive Visualizations. This presentation will focus on Tableau Your Data, Chapter 10, which is about creating Tableau stories. I'm also going to take a look at least one Tableau tutorial on creating a dashboard, and a little bit of content from Data Pipeline. First off, why should we make our visualizations interactive? After all, it just seems like a lot of extra work, but that extra work is worth it, because it helps connect your audience to your data in ways that other visuals may not. It does so by helping the audience dig deeper into the data. Visualization might show the broad picture, whereas the interactivity may allow the audience to look at more specific details. It also engages the audience by allowing them to customize the data that they're interested in, and that makes it more personal. So an example is this visualization from USA Today called Behind the Bloodshed, which shows U.S. mass killings since 2006. So as you can see here, we have a map of the U.S. showing red dots, which are the locations of different mass killings. And the user can interact with this by clicking on the dots and seeing more details about each of these mass killings. Now you can make this personal, say, from Michigan. You can click on the mass killings from Michigan and see what's going on there. So how can we make our visualizations interactive? Well, we're going to focus on Tableau, and one of the features Tableau has is called Dashboard. This is an example of a dashboard created through the Tableau tutorial. What Dashboard does, it allows you to show multiple worksheets in one place. You can have up to 4 worksheets on this one screen. This one has 2 of them. And how this creates interactivity is that it allows the worksheets to interact with one another, whereas they wouldn't be able to as individual worksheets. So how Dashboard works is when you open it up, you have over here, you have all the worksheets you've created. You can drag them over onto the dashboard where you want them, and then you can kind of mess around with some formatting to make things look a little less smushed. So this shows interactivity by when you click on the state up here, say North Carolina, it shows all the orders and profits of different categories for North Carolina down here, rather than showing the entire region that it has highlighted. The other way you can create interactivity through Tableau is what's called a Tableau story. So what Tableau story is it's a feature that allows users to put together a sequence of visualizations, and this allows you to make your visuals more interactive by telling a narrative about the data. As Murray puts it, you kind of create a guided analytic tour of your subject. And one of those examples from Tableau's site is this visual about why driving fatalities have decreased in the United States. So as you see here, it focuses on this line graph that trends downward. But up here we have several navigation buttons in which you can click on and look in different aspects of this line graph. And as you go along, it tells a story about what caused downward trends and so on. So one thing that Murray doesn't cover in the Tableau Your Data textbook that I thought was kind of interesting is that there are 7 types of data stories according to Tableau. These are all listed here. The first one here is change over time. Obviously, how has data changed over time? That last example about driving fatalities is a good example. Drill down is to dig deeper into your subject. Zoom out is to zoom out and look at the bigger picture. Contrast is making comparisons through your subject. Intersections is when you're looking at any trends, and if you see where trends intersect, where one takes over another, you kind of focus on what's going on there. Factors refers to you're looking at different categories of your subject, and then outliers are where are the oddballs, what's going on there. So how do you build a story? Well, Murray lists 5 different ways to do so, or the 5 steps to do so. So first you got to decide what kind of story you're going to tell. It's not enough just to have your subject. What do you want to tell about your subject? You also have to make sure you build in evidence in your story points that support that thesis you're saying. And the third step, which may be the most challenging, is to organize your arguments in a logical sequence. This seems to require a lot of planning. Then you'll want to highlight important evidence with some annotations and descriptions, something I'll show how to do in following slides. You make sure you provide some supporting details. So a little bit more about building a story. This right here is an example from Tableau of a story page opened up. So one thing I've circled the title. This is the main title. As Murray says over here, the story point main title is static. That means you can't move it. When you click on these different story points here, it stays there. You can remove it. I'll show you how to do that later, but you can't move it around. And each story point tab can hold one worksheet or a dashboard. So that means that before you get into a story, you gotta make sure you have the worksheets and dashboards you want to use all set up. So how do you create a story? Well, there's three ways to open it up. So one is you can click on story up here, and then you'll have a button that says new story. Another way is this button right here is a new worksheet, but there's an arrow, a down arrow here. You could click on that and then click on new story. And then down here is a story icon. You can click and it will create a new story. Pretty easy. This is your story workspace, and I've circled the key points I'm going to talk about. First is how you add additional story points. A story point is basically, each of these boxes indicates a different story point. These are called navigation buttons. They each indicate a different story points. They're going to have different visuals in them. You can either click on blank to create a blank story point and then add your visual, or you can duplicate the previous story point, which you might want to do if you want to highlight something in the previous one. These are the navigator buttons right here. You can click on these to go from story point to story point, and you can double click to add some, give a title to the story point. There's also right here, just like I showed in the dashboard, you have your worksheets and dashboard right here that you can click and drag onto the story point. You have a description icon. This one you can drag onto the screen and you can type into it. I know in the Tableau Your Data chapter they mentioned there's a navigator section right here, but that seems to be gone from newer versions. There's also a show title text box right here. This is how you can remove that title from the view, and you can change the size. Right now I have it set to automatic just to fill the screen, but you can change the size based on whether you want it to size a laptop, desktop, a phone, a tablet, and so on. Here's an example provided in Tableau Your Data of a story. This one shows all pitches by all pitchers in the 2014 MLB season. As you can see, that's a whopping 765,122 pitches. In this, this story has added a caption right here. It says this is where they cross the plate. So this shows, you can see the visual show, this is where all the baseball pitches have crossed the plate. And it has a total of 7 navigation buttons. And you know what you're going to see by looking at each of the titles of the navigation button. Another cool feature before I move on of interactivity here is you can click on each of these points to see how many pitches were thrown in that one specific area. So some more formatting examples. So this story point that we're on here, the what's an ephes, was created by duplicating the previous story point. So the previous story point just shows all these types of pitches in which you could click on each one and highlight where they're thrown. The author here wanted to highlight the ephes pitch, so they clicked on ephes, and you can see where all the ephes pitches were thrown. And you can see 2 descriptions. One of them is describing what an ephes pitch is, and another one is showing the average speed and the total percentage of the ephes pitches. So this is just an example of what a narrative can do if you want. And this author wanted audience to focus on this pitch particularly. But an example of interactivity, which I think is really cool about this visual, is that on this story point here, you can click your own combination. So you can click on the type of pitch, who pitched it, and what was the result. Was it a strike? Was it a ball? So you can look for your favorite pitcher, or look for the Tigers pitchers and see how did they do with certain pitches and so on. That's pretty cool. You can also format your story points, and you do that by clicking on Format, and then you'll click on Story with the ellipses right here, and you can format you can format the shading, the title, the navigator buttons, the descriptions. You can change the shading, the color, the font, the alignment, and so on. So the final step of once you've created your Tableau story is that you're going to export your story point view as a packaged workbook, so the TWBX file. Then you can publish it to a secure Tableau server or even to Tableau Public. Murray does give a warning if you do any data is changed in your worksheet or your dashboard. That's also going to change the data in your story point visualizations, since it's on the server. So for that reason, Murray recommends that you use story point presentations for either live presentations, like maybe for a business to show, why profits are going up or down, or if you're using data sets that aren't going to change. All right, here's some discussion questions. I do recommend if you're into baseball, looking into this, clicking this link and looking at that every pitch thrown. Here's my sources. Thank you for watching. Bye.